DVD recording. We show a little footage of the room we're in so you know it's a live recording, because there were some plumbers along the way who would show a push play on a DVD of a bad line to tell you needed a repair when you didn't.
Yeah.
So that's courtesy now as we show you it's your actual line that we're going on. Alright, so we're in ABS. And you can see right where we go through the foundation wall, it's switching to cast iron. So that's this point right here.
Okay.
Typically, the cast iron would stub out 2 to 4 feet outside the wall, and then it picks up clay pipe. We'll see here in a minute if we hit clay. So where cast iron, as far as this bit of pipe that we're in, doesn't break as easily as the clay tile pipe. Most people have exterior. What happens is it wears out in the bottom, and eventually the bottom goes. So you can see the wear marks.
How much wear is that?
It should be, that's pretty significant. It should be perfectly round like this,
okay.
But you can see the Grand Canyon here.
Yeah.
So that's worn thin. The pipe is not out, but it's worn thin. So I would say at some point, depending on how many people are using the house and what you put down the line, meaning chemicals, bleach, fat, fat and grease, all those things can hurt a line. So
how would you know when it went?
You wouldn't necessarily. You'll end up, the water will whoosh by just on dirt, and some of it will seep underneath, and then what happens is the line will belly. It'll wash away the dirt underneath, and the line will start to sink, and then eventually you'll be holding about half the pipe with water. That'll take years to happen. This is hard cast. It's not gone, but it's pretty significant wear. This is the car with bald tires that the tires haven't gone, but
You're still driving.
Yeah, still driving. So this is pretty significant wear. This is basically what it looks like right before we come in to repair it. So you've got some time. It's not gone, but you can see that whole run from inside to out.
Can you estimate how much time in terms of years?
Do you have a range? It's like 1 to 10, or?
I would say you have definitely less than 5 years.
Okay.
And it could be shorter than that, but you'll probably have to dig this within 5 years.
Okay. What's the cost to replace something like that?
It's under concrete, so it's a little bit more expensive. You're talking about a 10-foot run.
Yeah.
We'd actually go from inside to out, so we'd go plastic from right here, inside the wall through. So with us, you'd be looking at about 27 to 3,000 range.
3,000, okay.
And that's with concrete replacement.
Okay.
Now, outside you have nice big stones. That's to take out just what we need to dig. So you'd have a couple of new lines in your concrete, like the stress joints. So we'd only cut out what we need to dig, not a whole stone. It gets more expensive if, for aesthetics, you want us to take like a 12 by 15 stone. It's just the extra concrete.
Okay.
So some people that matters to them. Some people say just do it as cheap as you can. So here then we pick up plastic. Okay. And that's a good sign. Plastic should last you forever. So the other benefit to running, flushing a couple times and running those pumps, we wanted to put some water in the line. When the house is vacant, the pump tends to run dry, and we want to look if there's any bellies in the line or areas where it's holding water. If no water has been in the line for weeks or months, we can't necessarily see that running the camera. So we just put some water down the line, so if there's any bellies or low spots holding water, we will see those.
Is that water there?
Yeah, that's water. My camera sits about a little less than a ½ inch off the bottom of the pipe, and it's 4-inch pipe. We don't go underwater. You can see we're skimming right on the top. So I would call that about 1/4 of an inch of water. So that's just what we call a belly or a low spot in the line. Instead of running perfectly downhill, I'm going to exaggerate, but you get this. So everything goes whoosh by, and then a little bit holds.
So that would have happened over time? Or
this is plastic pipe, so it's recently been dug. Could have been the installers. Didn't quite put a level there. When they compacted it, if they didn't bed it properly, as they compacted the dirt on top, they could have pushed it down just ever so slightly. We're talking about a 1/4 inch of fall per foot on the line. So it's very slight. So if you push it down just a little bit, it can cause that. There's no backup potential with that.
Okay.
So that's one of those, if this were my house, I would live with that. I wouldn't necessarily spend the money to dig that up.
Okay.
Just be aware that it's there, and maybe every certain number of years, run a camera, see if it's gotten worse. If it gets to a point where half of the pipe, 2 inches of water is holding instead of a 1/4 of an inch, then it can potentially hold solids and TP and back you up.
Okay.
But this wouldn't be really an issue. It's just where the grade isn't quite right. It can also happen naturally in Colorado. The ground shifts a lot. I don't want to put the blame on whoever put this pipe in. It can also happen just from ground movement. You've also got the weight of the concrete around the pool sitting on that line, so that can even move the pipe ever so slightly. I don't know the history as far as when the sewer line went in relation to when the pool went in. So this is the green pipe, it's SDR 35. Good stuff. So there's a little more water. So you have another small belly. We just barely went underwater, so that one's about a 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch. And then we come back out into dry pipe. So that's how I know it's a belly, is because, see, it's running, the water's running downhill here.
Water you pushed out.
So we went into water, came back out. So it's just a low spot where it should be running downhill. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So are you going all the way out to the sewer?
We're going to go all the way out to the tap on the city main. Everything that potentially you could have to fix someday will be looked at here. The city main itself, if that backs up, everybody on your block is calling the city because everyone's backing up, and it's the city's deal to fix it one way or the other. But in Colorado, it's your responsibility, even if this pipe is in the street, it's your responsibility up until it connects with the city main, which is called your tap. And had we not run water, those two bellies likely would have just been dry, and we would have run over them and not even known they were there. So.
That second belly was in a different pipe, but that wasn't in plastic, right? That was in plastic.
Both of them were in plastic,
Okay.
yes, sir.
Sounds like you prefer plastic over clay.
Oh yeah, the clay's gonna go eventually. The plastic, the pipe itself should last forever. The only thing that could make you ever have to replace pipe is human error in installing it or outside factors of the earth, moving the pipe itself. Okay. So there's your tap right there.
Okay.
So that's your connection. And everything is running as it should. We flush the toilet, you can see everything's moving downhill. You have two little spots where it holds water. On a line this long, you flush and the water moves faster than the teepee. So if I was running this while you were living here, we might see little solids or whatever sitting along the line, but then the next flush they move a little further. Because the line's not steep like this, it's a gradual grade. That's common. But there's nothing obstructing flow. Line's great. So the only thing I could see if I were buying this house is at some point you're just going to have to get rid of the cast that's between plastic. So they've upgraded the interior and they've upgraded the whole main line. Typically, when we do the main line, we do connect to cast iron where it stubs outside of the house, because to fix that section of cast, it becomes an interior job as well, because we have to go inside to out.
Okay.
So that's normal for them to leave that, but that is, you can see, pretty worn out. So at some point you'll have that repair to look at, and given how worn out it was, it could be, next couple of years.
Okay.
A couple of $1,000s. Couple other people you call might be upwards of 5,000 or 6,000 for that repair. It kind of depends. Like she said, we're on the lower end for repairs, so that would be my price. But there's definitely some people out there who would be a little more expensive, depending on who you call out of the phone book. But that being said, pretty easy one-day job, and then concrete would go in the same day. And then you just have to wait 24 hours for the concrete to cure.
Okay, and then so remind me again, 'cause you kind of gave me a lot of information. So I would know that it's gone. I really wouldn't necessarily know it. I'd have to just remind myself to do this again sometime in the next 3 to 5 years. And then that would have caused an issue by then, but you'd see it go by then?
Yeah. When it goes, it won't necessarily back you up. Instead of round pipe, it'll be a horseshoe. The bottom will be gone. It'll basically be running on dirt. And every time water goes by, it takes a little dirt with it, and eventually it washes away the dirt. The pipe can sink. Then you get a big belly. Like the little ones we saw, you'll have a fairly large belly in here, which could, in turn, at some point, all this takes years, cause the concrete to drop. You can see a crack in your concrete, and some of that drops, or something like that. But you could not back up for a couple of years with that going on and not know it till all of a sudden your concrete cracks and shifts or something like that happens that you go, what's causing this? So, it's one of those things. Now you know about it, so you can keep an eye. It's worth paying it, for a camera every 5 years or something, 3 years. I mean, whatever you feel comfortable with, kind of watch the wear. It could last longer than 5 years, honestly.
Would you provide me then with a copy of an invoice today, so I can forward this, so he has that, and a copy of an estimate if I could show the seller what it would cost to remedy the situation that's...
Of course.